So this is the piece of music that Mary has sent, and her specific question is about this left hand pattern. She's asking about what the best fingering is for the left hand pattern. Now in Mary's email she did actually say that she was using tucking, and a little sneaky suspicion tells me that Mary, you're already doing the best fingering for this left hand pattern, because I know you quite well. But it's still a great point to discuss because there are a few different options here. There's one that for me, I feel is the best and the smoothest. But we can pick it apart and talk about the different options, because the thing that's really interesting about fingering is that something that might be the best option for me, or even the best option for the majority of harp players, isn't necessarily the best option for all harp players. We all have different sizes of hands, we have different lengths of fingers, and we also have different, I don't want to say ailments, but let's call them niggles. We have different niggles that we're dealing with in our bodies, yeah? Some people might have double jointed fingers, some people might have a bit of arthritis, some people might have trigger finger, and all of these things means that sometimes you have to approach fingering passage in a slightly different way. So discussing the different fingering options is a really great idea. And in a little second, I will also share the harp and play this for you as well and demonstrate these different options. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to write the options in. I'm going to finish with the one that for me is the best. And I'm going to start with the one that, if you have larger hands than me, you might find suits you better. So I have quite small hands, and so in order to do this stretch, it's quite difficult for me. So if you have bigger hands, then 4, 3, 2, 1, and then coming right back down the same fingers is probably going to be the best option for you. And then back up the same shape again, 4, 3, 2, 1, and back down the same fingers. Now, some of you have got your harps, you might immediately be trying this. Great, you should try it. And you might immediately say, that is a crazy stretch. Wow, my fingers maybe don't stretch that far. But in actual fact, even if your fingers can't place all of this under one bracket, like this, you can rock your hand, okay? So what I mean by that, and again, like I say, I'll demonstrate this in just a minute, you can place your 4 and 3 on the F and C, which is our first two notes here, and then rock your thumb and 2 onto the top strings, which is the F and the A. Like I say, I'll explain this by demonstrating in a little moment. And then coming back down, rock your fingers back on. Rocking your hand, there's not necessarily anything wrong with rocking your hand, but the more you can place in harping, the more secure your hand is going to be, and the more smooth flowing the phrase is going to be. So if you've got large hands, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, having large hands is great on the harp in actual fact, and you can place this full shape, it is best for you to place this. Place all 4 fingers, come up, and all 4 fingers coming back down. It will give you the smoothest sound, and it will also give you the most security in this particular phrase, if you like, in this particular shape. So if you're someone who can place all 4 of these fingers on like this, definitely the best fingering option for you. Nice and secure. It's going to give you smooth flowing phrases. If you have smaller fingers, let's just get rid of everything that we just did, and you feel comfortable tucking, then you might like to try, this is the first tucking option, 3, 1, 2, 1, and then back down the same fingers, 2, 1, and a 3 on the F at the bottom, 3, 1, and tucking a 2 and a 1, and back down again. And I'm assuming that this carries on with the same shape, which is finishing with a 1 on the C isn't necessarily particularly nice. But if it doesn't carry on with the same shape, then you could pop a 4 at the end there if it's ending on the C. Now, this is not as comfortable a tuck as the tucking suggestion I'm about to share with you, but it gives you a very lovely closed hand shape at the top of the arpeggio pattern, because we're finishing with a thumb at the top, which gives us this lovely rounded shape at the top of the phrase to come back down our arpeggio pattern and descend back down. Again, I'll demonstrate this in just a moment for you. So if you feel really comfortable tucking and you can create a lovely smooth tuck and you really want to feel almost, this music is almost like a wave, right? It goes up, it peaks at the top and it comes back down. By having a thumb at the top on this A right here, this will give you that feeling of the peak in your hand, because the thumb at the top bending and coming back down feels like the peak of the wave. And so the flow of the phrase will feel very nice under the hand with the thumb at the top. You can also do the same tucking here, but instead of tucking a 2 in the middle of this shape, you can tuck a 3, because when we're tucking this distance here, from the C to the F, it's quite a large distance to tuck, and you might actually feel more comfortable tucking your 3 under and still placing the thumb at the top there. So that's kind of like a little variation of option 2. So option 2, better for smaller hands and better if you want to really feel that kind of wave flow in the phrase in the left hand. The final option, and the option that is most comfortable for me with my small hands, is 4, 2, 1, which is, I think this is what Mary will be doing. This first shape is a 1-5-8 chord. And so placing a 4-2-1 on this first shape feels very natural under the hand. It's one of the most common shapes we get in harping, and we're so used to going with this fingering. When you see this shape, if you can use this fingering, it's going to feel so nice and natural under your hand. And then we're going to tuck a 2 under, just for that little second, for that A at the top. And then we're going to come back down again, that 1-5-8 shape with our 1-2-4, and back up the same shape at the bottom, tucking the 2 and coming back down. Now, this isn't going to give the same feel of the wave, but you should be able to create the sound of the wave by thinking about where the accents are falling. It's a little bit more tricky because our thumb does tend to be naturally accented on the harp. We kind of want, the thumb often comes out a little bit louder than the other fingers. And in this situation, we really want to get that wave feeling. We want the accent to be on this note at the bottom, and then we want it to be on this note at the top, which of course we're playing with a 2 tucking under. And so if you're using this fingering, which is the fingering I would use, you want to be really careful about where your accents are falling and accenting the correct finger. And of course, we've got our accented finger scales, we've got our individual finger exercises. These 2 exercises will help you improve that skill of being able to really accent the finger that you're looking for to allow that ebb and flow. And you never know, as you practice it and you feel these other options, you might actually decide that there is one that feels better for you. You can have a look-see. So if we go to this view, I'm going to talk through the options with you guys able to see the harp now. And I'm going to do it both with my left hand and my right hand, again, just so that you guys can really see what's happening, because when I use my left hand, obviously it's slightly blocked. And I'm hoping, let's put ourselves in the right key, that as I play this, you can actually hear the difference, because I will definitely feel the difference in my fingers. So the first option was the placing. It's very difficult for me to place all of those strings. I really feel overstretched. I can do it, but this is going to have really quite a weak sound because it's so stretched. Can you hear the sound, Mary? Is it coming through? Perfect. You actually saw that I was able to place it for the first shape, but I really can't get it placed to come back down. And do you see how high my fingers are coming just to try and make that stretch? We always want our thumb to be above my knuckles, and I almost can't do that because it's such a big stretch. But if I rock my hand, much easier. And you can hear that very naturally that ebb and flow is coming. So actually it feels quite nice, but this stretch is really quite far. I can't do it, but I have to do it really at the very last moment. The next option we had was the tuck. Tucking the finger 2. My finger 2 can tuck quite nicely that distance. It feels quite comfortable. The way that that feels under my hands is actually slightly less controlled. When I've got that tuck in the middle and I'm changing from the 3 to the 2, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I actually naturally wanted to stay on a 2 there. The changing of the fingers, it doesn't feel so good under my hand. I can do it, but it doesn't feel so good. So that was this option. And it just doesn't feel anywhere as flowing as what I just played. So I'd actually rather the bigger stretch than the option of the tucking there. If I stick with the 3 tucking, it is a little bit nicer. But there is still a slight feeling of disjointedness when I use that option. Personal choice. If I go to the one that feels really natural for me, now the reason I like this option better, or best, and I'll show you with my right hand so you can really see. That just feels like the best, just the best option for me. I'm just going to stop sharing, is because I'm so used to the 158. Like, it's just so natural to have that 158 with the 4-2-1. The tucking of the 2 at the top of the phrase is worth it because everything else feels so natural. So yes, the peak isn't as nice as finishing with a thumb at the top, but I can control it. And I don't know if you can hear too much through Zoom, but because I was thinking about accenting my finger 2 at the top, I actually accented it on the way up as well. So I ended up playing. And obviously the accenting when you're doing this fingering is hard because you're accenting the 4 and then the 2 at the top. So we should really have. And that's me overdoing the accenting there for demonstration purposes. But that would be how you'd work that accenting up anyway. You would want to overdo the accents. Look at accenting finger scales, look at your individual fingers with dynamics, and those exercises will help you control and feel a nicer flow. So hopefully that helps. Yes, and what I'd really recommend you do is go away and try the other ones, but not just for 2 minutes. Try them for a whole practice session and try them with the right hand as well. So I haven't actually looked at all at the right hand here, and sometimes that will influence your choice as well, because what if the right hand is kind of placing the similar fingers or tucking at the same point, it actually will make it much easier. Whereas if your right hand, has got a tuck at a different point and then you're tucking your left hand up to the two, that can make it more complicated. So when you add the right hand back in, you might say, oh, actually I quite like the tuck in the middle because there's a right hand tuck in the middle. It just depends on what's going on in the right hand. So try the left hand, work out what feels really comfortable, and then add the right hand back in and ask yourself, how does it feel now?